Seats. Councillors and visitors, please remember to switch your electronic devices to silent. Welcome everybody, and of course we'd like to welcome our viewers who are also watching the meeting via the live stream this evening. Deputy Mayor, could I ask you please to read the opening prayer and ask you all to stand up? Thank you.
Almighty God, we ask you to guide us in all our discussions to show goodness, honesty, understanding and wisdom in all that we undertake to do. May we respect each other's views at all times, and we ask all of this in your name. Amen.
Thank you. Councillor Perkoff, could you read the acknowledgement of country?
On behalf of councillors, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Whadjuk Noongar people on which this meeting is taking place, and show our respect for elders past and present.
Thank you, and you can all take your seats. Without prior approval, any recording of this meeting is prohibited. No action should be taken on any resolution of council prior to written advice from the city being received. That brings us to item 1, official opening. Ladies and gentlemen, I declare the council meeting of the 29th of October 2024 open at 6:32 p.m. 2, apologies. I have apologies from Councillor Joe Ferrante, Councillor David Lagan and Councillor Stephanie Proud. And I do have a quick mention tonight. I think it's fairly important, and that is I would like to just acknowledge Councillor Proud is absent tonight as she is actually attending the Australian wedding of her son, Cody. So we'd like to wish them all the best for this evening. We had the privilege, myself and the CEO, of welcoming the Japanese family from Japan, and it turns out the father-in-law is actually a mayor of a village in Japan. So it was a lovely surprise, and it was a nice experience for us to exchange a few stories. But we certainly like to wish Councillor Proud and her family all the best for this evening. Item 3, approved leave of absence. I have nil. 4, disclosure of interest. There was 1 disclosure from the Community and Resources Committee meeting held on the 22nd of October 24, which is listed in tonight's agenda and displayed. Councillors, are there any disclosures for this evening? Councillor Dudek.
Yeah, I've got a disclosure in 12.1 TE2. It's an impartial interest, and several of the tenderers have been clients of my brother's business in the past.
Thank you. No other indication. We will now go on to petitions. I don't have any on record, but I believe Councillor Christovich, you have a petition?
Yes, I do, Mr Mayor. I have a petition. It's non-complying. It has 35 signatures. It's a petition to stop the construction of a footpath in Gamble Way in Karrinyup. It reads accordingly. Advance notice of a plan to construct a footpath in Gamble Way, Karrinyup from Blair Street to Deemore Road was recently provided to all residents by the City of Stirling. The City states the pathway is a priority for the area due to proximity to the primary school. This petition urges the City to abandon the plan to construct the pathway on the northwest side of the road for the reasons outlined below. And I'll read one of them out. The need for access to the primary school is unfounded and is provided for by the footpath on Blair Street that travels from Duke Street to Deemore Road, enabling direct crossover to the school and oval facilities. An additional option of turning onto Gamble Way is not required, and it lists a whole range of other things, but I will not read the rest of them. So,
thank you for that. I'll just clarify. So it's a complying. It does comply. It's just
it hasn't been verified
by
I just
government.
received it at 5 o'clock this afternoon, so I didn't have time for verified. But every single signature, all 35 of them, are from residents in Gamble Way.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Are there any other unverified petitions? If not, can I just have a mover and a seconder to accept that petition? Thank you. Move Councillor Papart and seconded Deputy Mayor Migdale. And just a show of hands to accept the petition. Thank you. That's unanimous, councillors. We'll move on to item 6, responses to previous questions from members of the public taken on notice, and those were published in the minutes of that meeting. Brings us to item 7, public question time. Lisa Thompson, if you'd like to come forward and kick us off. Thank you. And if you just, the bottom right-hand corner, the silver button.
Thanks, sorry.
That's right. And your name and suburb to start.
Lisa Thompson, Trigg. It's my 3rd time here. It's getting to be fun. No, look, I was just reading your local convoys report today, and sorry, I haven't really anyway, and in every suburb, Coolbinia to Mirrabooka to Churchland and Scarborough, trees, greening, conservation of the natural environment and parking were the main concerns of the ratepayers. Parking, it's probably the main one in Scarborough and Trigg. We've got gridlock Thursday nights and the weekends. Are there any future plans that the council is engaging in to address this problem?
Thank you. Look, where do I start? Yes, the council has in the past looked into the parking issues in Scarborough and is currently looking into it. There's actually an item on the agenda this evening which talks towards mid-tier transit and better rapid transit solutions out of Scarborough. The council is also examining other possibilities for parking infrastructure in Scarborough and working with state government on things like the congestion on West Coast Highway and in future fast tracking of either a tunnel or a trench solution.
I was just wondering if maybe another multi-storey or something like that, because as the population grows, as we all have found out, it's just getting worse. And as we were discussing the boardwalk, I just don't know if Trigg Car Park, South Trigg Car Park has 95 car park bays, which is full. I went down there on the weekend, people are everywhere. It's full. And Scarborough, as you know, Mayor, it's full. Yes. So I don't know what the plan is going forward with the boardwalk and how it's going to address or absolutely make West Coast Highway a nightmare. I just was wondering, is the parking considered?
Thank you. And look, and you would have seen in some of the published material and probably came up in the convos, obviously there is an expectation that sometimes on quieter days when Scarborough is pumping for an event that people may park at South Trigg, but it's also acknowledged on busy summer days they're certainly already full. So that's not going to be the solution to solving the parking problems.
So would a boardwalk enhance this problem?
No, well, I think that's unknown at this stage. No studies have been done on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Roger Cristaveo. Apologies if I've pronounced that wrong. Sorry, and just turn it back on, the silver, and just your name and suburb to start.
Yeah, my name is Roger Cristaveo, and I'm from Inaloo.
Thank you. And just your first question.
Okay, my first question is about Filburn Street in Scarborough, and this goes back to the lady. I have found that there's not sufficient parking for people who legally want to park, but they have no other choice but to park, quotation marks, illegally. So what is the council going to do about that?
Thank you for that question. Look, it is acknowledged that parking is a significant problem throughout Scarborough and probably going up towards Doubleview as well. Those areas are specifically in the City of Stirling are significant problems. And a lot of it is caused by the future planning frameworks that allow for multiple dwellings on one block but have limited car parking, or apartments that will have limited car parking. Again, there's an item on the agenda tonight regarding trackless trams, which is part of that because it relies on future transport solutions that mean people don't need as many cars. I will get Mr. Murphy perhaps just to provide some comment on the parking studies that are currently being done.
Okay, I put it to the Mayor that...
Sorry, I'll just get some more answer and clarification.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor. So, thanks for the question. So there is a parking policy that is on the agenda tonight, and that is intended to guide administration on when it's appropriate to intervene in a parking situation. So, I've made a note of Filburn Street. I've got no personal knowledge of Filburn Street, but that's certainly a street that we will look at in terms of the policy if it's approved by council tonight. And we are doing lots of work in Scarborough across the board about trying to manage parking. It is as been said a few times now, it is a difficult problem, but we are following a number of strategies to try and help the situation.
Okay, so I just put it to the council and all the members here that if you have a certain amount of parking bays, let's say 300, I'm just pulling this number out, and there are 2,000 cars. So obviously the other 1,700 are not going to be able to park legally. And just going on to Filburn Street, so in my correspondence with the people from the council, it seems to be that from January the 1st of last year till August this year, just that street alone collected about $11,000 in parking fines. So I put it to the council that this is like a cash cow for you guys. And if that's just one street, how many other streets are raking in the money for the council? So, you know, I honestly hope everybody can park legally and, you know, people wouldn't have to park illegally. But if you want people to comply by the law and ask them to park legally, then you have an obligation to provide like enough parking for people to park legally. Otherwise, you know, you just milk the other people who can't.
No, thank you for that, and we certainly respect that opinion. The annual resident survey showed that parking and the undersupply of parking in areas is probably one of the number one issues that affects them on their daily lives. There's two parts to it. One part is that there has to be more parking supply and infrastructure to get people in and out, and we acknowledge that. And it's not necessarily something that's just a monetary problem. It's also obviously a complex issue. But the other side of it is changing behaviours, and it is a generational change. I think we often talk about, in WA, one of the best examples of that is Optus Stadium. At a nightly football game, when you've got tens of thousands of people, there's no possible way everyone can park in there, and they've basically delivered the outcome by making sure there's no parking at all. Look, Scarborough is never going to, no matter what we do or what the community do, it's never going to have enough when 10,000 people roll up on a Thursday night. Behaviours need to change on those sort of nights, but we acknowledge on the rest of the time, yes, it is high on our priority list, and we are constantly exploring ways to improve it.
Okay, so my second question is about Scarborough Beach Road. And I was here about 2 to 3 months ago, and I put it to the council that Coles, Woolworths, Aldi, I don't know who else, at Westfield in Loo, that their trolleys are all over the place on Scarborough Beach Road, on Ellen Sterling Road. And I remember that someone here from the council said they're going to look into it. And what has been done since like 2 or 3 months ago about this issue? Because if any member right now were to go down Scarborough Beach Road, you would see from Odin Road down to Ellen Sterling Road, there are about 7 to 8 trolleys on the footpath. So what is the council planning to do about reining in Coles and Woolworths?
Yeah, thank you for that.
Because I've actually written an email to the, I think it's called SDs.
Thank you for your question. I'll get a response to you. Mr. Blanchard?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks for the question. At the next Community and Resources Committee meeting, we will be presenting a draft shopping trolleys local law for consideration by committee and the council. And that shopping trolleys local law proposes to increase the fines that can be imposed, provide greater regulatory powers to the city to deal with shopping trolleys, and place more onus on the shopping centre owners.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Blanchard. And your third question, sir?
Okay. The third question is, how would I be able to contact the Wajak people?
We're happy to provide some contacts for some of the elders in the community.
So the reason why I ask this is because I put it to you that since we all stand here, we acknowledge the country and this country belongs to them, or did belong to them, that we should ask for their permission to park as well as abide by all the other lawful regulations that we're given. So can we ask the Wajak people if we're allowed to park on streets?
Yes, happy to pass that on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Roland Hadley. Thanks, Mr. Hadley. It's already on, so just your name and suburb.
Good evening, Roland Hadley, Woodlands. Knowing the Mayor of Scarborough is keen for development in the South Creek area, can you advise if the city has made or will be making an application to the state or federal governments to reduce the size of the A-class reserve in this area, particularly when he has proposed a worldwide tourist attraction, a boardwalk? Ratepayers wish to know the breakdown of expenditure for this $500,000 environmental study. Detailed, accurate information in the minutes, please.
Yes, happy to provide the breakdown of what has been spent, Mr. Hadley, and no, we're not proposing to remove the A-class reserve. Your next question?
Question 2. When the next councillor has a light bulb moment, i.e. $350,000 worth of Christmas lights, can he or she complete a lot of preparatory work first? Apparently, the lights are being hired and maintained and installed by a contractor. Did this contract go through a tender process? Who is the contractor? How long will these lights be operating? 5 to 6 weeks over Christmas? Is this going to be an annual event? I requested information on the cost of electricity for ratepayers at the last council meeting and still awaiting a reply. Obviously very difficult to work it out. Perhaps you can also add the electricity cost for the so-called iconic even, illuminated clock tower. A mere $90,000 for that one.
Thank you, Mr Hadley, for that question. The lights will be operating during Christmas. That's why they're Christmas lights, and happy to provide you the details and costs of the contractor, etc., in writing, Mr Hadley. And your third question?
When you say Christmas, do you mean 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
It will provide the dates of when they'll be operating.
Thank you. The long-awaited trackless tram business case has suddenly sneaked into tonight's agenda. No fanfare, no bunting. Amazing. Having scanned through the 650-page bias report, we did not see any cost relating to the construction of 11 raised platforms with lighting, shelter, security, and future maintenance. Nor did we see any cost relating to the widening of this 7-kilometre road, nor the mention or removal of hundreds of telegraph poles, pavements, drainage. No reference was made to possible compensation for compulsory purchasing of properties, possible compensation for loss of trade due to roadworks, similar to Scarborough Beach development, I recollect. Please advise all the information you can on this matter in the future. We understand that there are limited numbers travel on this route already, apart from activity in the Osborne Park commercial area and Innaloo. We believe that emission-free electric buses, which is now provided by the state government, can provide this service without the vast expense disruption that is being proposed for this half-baked project and this very misleading report. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Mr Hadley. I think it's clear in the report that the cost benefits have all been put in the report by world-class engineers and people who are experts in this area. It certainly wasn't provided by City of Stirling Council. We acknowledge there's been no fanfare leading up to this. It's a council agenda item. Once it is noted and accepted by council, there will be some fanfare because it's been a fantastic project. Are there any other questions in the gallery? If not, thank you for your questions. We'll move on to 8, application for leave of absence. Councillors, can I have a mover and a seconder? Sorry, I jumped a step. Are there any applications for leave of absence? Then we don't need a mover and a seconder. Thank you. Item 9, confirmation of minutes. Can I have a mover and a seconder to accept the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 15th of October? Move Councillor Perkoff, seconded Councillor Kristovich. And just a show of hands for those minutes to accept them. Thank you. And against? So all councillors voting for the minutes, council voting against the minutes. Item 10, announcements by the presiding member. I have nil. 11, unresolved business from previous meeting. I have nil. I'll move on to item 12, which is the reports and recommendations from committee. We'll deal with the items from the Community and Resources Committee meeting. There are a few that need to be pulled out. There was 12.1 ES1, which will already be pulled out, as there is a slight amendment with the alt-rec, just following the conversations that were at that committee meeting. 12.1 GOV1 as well, and 12.1 GOV2 also have alternate recommendations, which are included at the end of your running sheet. Councillors, are there any others that you wish to pull out? Councillor Dudek?
Yeah, all of them. No, sorry. I do jest. Just 12.1 TE2, I just want to upgrade my type of interest to financial interest, so I should probably leave the room.
Sure. We can do that. Councillor Ree?
Yes, thank you. May I have 12.1 F1, please, on page 102?
Thank you. No other indication. I will go to 12.1 ES1, the proposed new policy on control and management of on-street parking. Councillor Perkoff, as chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move the committee recommendation as written on page 10, and as indicated by yourself, there is a slight alt
Yeah,
rec
so that
amendment
just,
also.
so the alt rec, so, yeah, so you're actually moving the.
Yep.
The alt rec.
Happy to move that alt rec. Has everyone had a look at that?
Thank you. The Deputy Mayor has seconded that. Is there anyone opposed? A question, Councillor Ree? I'll allow.
Yes, thank you. We did debate at length about the waste management being brought in, but
That is in that attachment.
which is in the attachment, which is not there. That is yes, it's in the attachment. However, one of the sections says that we will have no parking between like 6 and 8 because of bin day. Well, as I alluded to at committee, for those up there, and from the public, you put the bins out the day before and sometimes you've got another day. So whether or not it needs, even though it actually says in there that they will look at it per basis, the way waste management, does it not conflict with the previous paragraph which says we could actually make measures between 8 and 6? Do we need to define that time because people put their bins out the night before, not in the morning? So I just wondered whether or not that needs, because it's conflicting the way it's written.
I've got to say, I find this amazing that we have committee a week ago. We debate this, there's an amendment, then there's all this time, and then we're going to do amendments on the fly at a council meeting. So, Mr.
Mayor, I
Murphy,
don't believe it was on the fly. I do believe I've discussed this several times. I don't know where you've been.
I think this could have been clarified offline. Mr. Murphy?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor, you can see that the policy has been altered to make reference to dealing with parking issues, preventing waste collection on collection day. I understand the point you're making that because it talks about between 8 and 6, but people put their bins out the night before. But we collect, usually during the hours of 8 and 6. So I think somebody putting their bins out the night before, we don't need a parking restriction the night before because we collect the following day. So I don't think that conflicts. The other important thing to say is we deal with everything on a case-by-case basis. So when we do install parking restrictions because there are problems on collection day, they're very specific to the collection day and the time of collection so that we can allow parking outside of times where waste collection happens.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, like I mentioned several times, that people put their bins out the night before. People park who don't live in the street in front of the bins the night before. They don't necessarily take the cars away during that day, and they don't belong in the street, which is half the issue. So you've got people who don't belong in the street, mainly to do with density developments, parking their cars the night before. The bins are trying to be emptied during the day, and their cars don't go. That's why I'm saying it should be the night before.
The question's understood, but as Mr. Murphy said, the policy is for when the bins are actually collected during the day. This is a new policy, so the truck drivers understand that there's restrictions will be put in place, and they adjust their runs accordingly. But you're suggesting we have 24 hours prior there's restrictions so no one can park in a street when there's going to be a bin collection the following day?
Exactly what I'm suggesting. It's not 24 hours necessarily, but it is stopping people parking that don't live in the street. And the classic is in Scarborough where you've got three bays when you've got 30 odd bins, so people can't even park there. What I'm saying is that if it's restricted from say 8 o'clock that night or 7 o'clock that night through till 6 o'clock the next day, well, it's now actually doesn't have to be that, they're usually gone by 4 o'clock. That's the difference. The cars
So, Councillor, I'm going to ask you to take a seat, and I'm going to accept that you're opposed to this, because
I'm not opposing it. I'm just saying clarification. I'm saying the clarification.
But you've had clarification,
of
and
the 8
now,
to 6.
Councillor, you've had clarification. The director has said he doesn't see a conflict. If you'd like to debate it, I'll go to the mover, and we can debate it. There's no one opposed to this. That's all. So. If it's just a quick question, I'll allow. Otherwise, I will go to the mover to debate it.
All right. Well, all I would just say is that I think that the way it's written does provide the scope for the officers to deal with the matter, dealing with the bin collection times. I think it's quite clear it's different to the timeframes for the other investigations. My question is perhaps through you, Mr. Mayor, whether, and to Councillor Ree's issue, whether perhaps there could be some investigation, not really related to this policy, but to signage, perhaps alerting, if we were to put those signage in for bin collection days, some wording that just gives, I suppose, the parker during the night or the evening before the awareness that a bin collection is to occur the next day. Because I understand when it comes to obviously policing or legislating it, it's obviously about the timeframes that you can't park, not the day before. So whether that could be done, I'm soon offline, but that's the question I've got.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's a sensible approach. Look, this is a new on-street parking policy to allow the officers to better manage in a consistent way across the city. But it is also just a policy. It'll go through a trial stage, and if it needs to be amended because it's not working, that can certainly be amended. Thanks, councillors. I'll put that to the vote. Thank you, and that is unanimous. Thank you. And I'll go to 12.1 F1. Councillor Ree has pulled this one out. Councillor Perkoff is chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. 12.1 F1. I would like to move the committee recommendation as written on page 102.
And do I have a seconder? Councillor Kristovich has seconded. Councillor Ree, are you opposed? Just a question? Okay, I'll allow a question.
Thank you very much. On page 58, since I was unable to finish asking all my questions the other day at committee, on page 58, it actually has got the Tuscany Association, around 8,000, Sports and Scarborough Sporting Club, 7,000, Osborne Park Agricultural Society, 12, Stirling Adriatic, 21,000, WA Maccabee as well. What is that specifically for? It says contribution. Usually, if it was a funding grant or event, it would say that.
So that's
is it terminology that's changed?
Yes. So it's a way it's the rebates are provided to them under the legislation. So the rates have to be charged and then they're basically donated back. So that's effectively those clubs, which are privately owned community clubs, not paying rates.
We used to write it up roughly like that, not a contribution. So I just wondered why. I thought that was it, but I just thought, why are we writing it in a different way? That's all. Because if somebody doesn't ask, they don't know.
Yeah. Thank you. There's no one opposed this one, so I will put this one to the vote. Thank you, and that is unanimous as well. And we'll go to 12.1 TE2. This has been pulled out so that Councillor Dudek can leave the chamber. Thank you. Councillor Perkoff, I'll go to you as chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mayor. 12.1 TE2. I would like to move the committee recommendation as written on page 127.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Kristovich has got his hand up again. Is there anyone opposed? If not, I'll put this one to the vote, noting that Councillor Dudek is not in the chamber for this vote. Thanks. We've got Councillor Olo. I just need your vote. Thank you, and that is unanimous, councillors. It's painless. Can we just thanks, Councillor Papard, if you can get Councillor Dudek back in. Council, go to 12.1 GOV1, the Information Management Policy. Again, there was a committee recommendation with a alt-rep following committee. Councillor Perkoff.
Oh, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to, for 12.1 GOV1, I'd like to move the alt-rec as written on our agenda and part of attachment 4.
Thank you. Councillor Kristovich has got his hand up. There you go. It's a good team tonight, you two. Is there anyone opposed to this one? Councillor Ree, you have a question? Your question?
Yes, page 141, the database, just making sure that the search capabilities include motions, memos and attachments. As previously discussed, did raise it, but I don't know what happened. I don't remember if we got a proper answer, that's all.
Mr Blanchard?
Thank you, Council, for the questions. Previously been advised to Council. The motions database is available. It provides many years' worth of data about decisions, and this has been communicated to councillors in a memo and implemented in accordance with the council decision.
thank you. That wasn't actually my question. My question was, is the database, one of the questions what Mrs. Jack asked quite a few times, the ability to search the attachments, the memos, the motions on the database. Is that now fixed up? That was the question. And I don't think that answered it with the attachments, etc. in particular. I mean, even at the last council
Sure.
meeting, we had
Miss-
councillors that couldn't
Ms
open
Hawkins?
up.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Ree. Yes, there was a fix made to our minutes system, which then allows you to search on all the documents that are packaged up. So yes, absolutely, I appreciate that question was raised some time ago.
It doesn't mean, like it was alluded, that they have to download the whole. No, good. Oh, that's good that it's fixed. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. There's no one opposed to this one, so I'll put that one to the vote. Thank you, and that's unanimous. And we'll go to 12.1 GOV2, the elected member policy review. And there was a couple of slight amendments following committee. So the alt rec for that one, Councillor Perkoff.
Thank you, Mayor. 12.1 GOV2. As per committee recommendation on page 163, with the additional changes as what the alt recs in our agenda, I so move.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that one? Councillor Judici. I've got to shake this up. Is there anyone opposed to this one? Councillor Ree, you're opposed? Thank you. Councillor Perkoff.
I'll reserve it this time, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Judici.
Assembly, I'll reserve.
You don't get to reserve. Councillor Ree.
Couple of questions. One, I don't know if I'm right or wrong here, but on the paperwork it had professional development policy, but on the approval to recommend, it's not listed. So does that mean that it wasn't supposed to be in there, or it was supposed to be in there?
Thank you. Mr Blanchard.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The name of the policy has been changed to align more accurately with the wording used in the legislation. It's now listed as the elected member training policy.
Thank you. Councillor Ree.
Thank you. Oh, maybe we could have said that. The second thing is that, as I alluded to before, I don't believe that we should have all these policies at one hit. I think it's a little bit difficult to follow them all, especially with just a week's notice or even less in some ways. The page 193 and 2001, 201, 193 and 201. 193 and 201. 193, 201. So it comes back to 192, where it actually says at the bottom there that the mayor may donate to approved recipients across the city without consent of ward councillors. I did ask that committee whether or not we could include that to say that that the ward councillors would be advised, so that they're not totally kept in the dark about what goes on in their ward. And I think that was acknowledged, but I didn't see it getting changed.
I don't think it needs to be changed. It's acknowledged that that should happen.
It doesn't have to be written somewhere?
I don't think it has to be written somewhere. I'm happy to acknowledge it in an open forum. If normally the only reason I would do a donation is to a community club is to assist the councillors of that ward and the club of that ward. There's no secret. It's all published. It's all online. It's no secret.
Thank you. I just thought it might have been put up. With 203, with regard to the Christmas cards, is it not a possibility to have any hard copy Christmas cards if required? No possibility at all?
I think it was... Look, the reality is if councillors are desperate to have some Christmas cards, we can probably buy them anyway out of the elected members. You've got a significant elected member allowance. It's just determined that the reality now of getting paper Christmas cards and then mailing them out at whatever it is, I don't even know how much a stamp is. It's probably $5 a stamp these days. It's just not economical. It doesn't align with our sustainability policy or any of those things. That's why councillors now have the ability to send the electronic one out much more broadly and widely.
Just that, I am quite well aware that you can buy a Christmas card. I was just saying that, with the actual Christmas cards that had City of Stirling on it, they were quite nice. So that's all. I just wondered if there was a possibility. If we don't want to go that way, fine. What happens when we breach a policy? Because it's not written in here anywhere.
You get, I don't know where that was coming from. Yes. You get in trouble. That's the short answer. Don't breach policies.
Well, that depends on who you are, of course. But I mean, there's nothing written in here that actually says what happens if you breach one of these policies.
I'm pretty sure if you look through our Code of Conducts, probably the Local Government Act would give you a pretty good indication. It's common sense, Councillor Reeve. But if you breach a policy that has significant ramifications on the city, you're probably going to be in front of the standards panel or something like the CCC. If you breach a policy by sending too many Christmas cards, then you'll probably get told not to do it again. Depends on the case. Anyway, Councillor Reeve, have you got any more questions?
I actually think that's not just about that either, but anyway, we'll keep going. On page 228, why have we taken out the local government election caretaker practices, the dates, etc.? I know that was supposed to be incorporated in it. In one section we were waiting for the actual legislative changes. So I thought, well, if they don't come in, wouldn't we still be keeping this until they come in, which is written somewhere else, but then it's totally deleted. So does that mean we're in limbo?
Mr. Blanchard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The progress of local government reform is coming in many stages. We have previously advised Council that the reforms in relation to the mandatory statewide caretaker period came into force on 1st of July this year and will apply to every local government election moving forward. It's for this reason that we have amended our election caretaker policy to align with those legislative changes. There are other aspects of reform which will impact on elected member policies that are yet to come into force, and so we haven't made those changes yet.
Councillor Reid.
And so why didn't we then reference that in the election caretaker policy and add it as a link so that people who pick it up realise that that's which is what I thought we did, but it's not referenced here. And this is the link to the legislation governing everyone in the state to make sure everyone was on the same page, to say it's not just us, it's everybody. So I thought we had, but then it's not written in here.
I'm just not sure where you're heading with this. I think it's been answered. Have you got any other questions?
It was a link to show that we're all the same, so it's not written in this election caretaker policy.
Anyway. Through you, Mr. Mayor, on page 233, the policy references the Local Government Act, the Local Government Elections Regulations, the Electoral Acts of 1907 for state elections and the Electoral Act of 1918 for Commonwealth elections.
Sounds like a fair bit of referencing, Mr. Blanchard. Councillor Reid, have you got anything else?
But that actually doesn't say that what it is, which is my point. The other thing is, and I think we should have a definition of the caretaker, what the caretaker policy actually is, somewhere in there, which we don't have. One of the other comments I'd like to make is that with all these, and I have asked this question and I don't know where it's at to at governance, that with these policies, when we write them, could we not write up the top what date they are, so that, you know, I was looking at a policy and it's two different policies, but neither one had a date on it, and I've sent them to governance.
The date's at the bottom of the policy.
No. When they print out the policy, they don't necessarily say what the date of it is, and when you print out the actual policy, and I've sent them to governance because they're two different policies, and I've spoken to Mrs. Hawkins about it as well, and trying to figure out what date the policies are. So I just think that at the front of it, this little bit at the bottom, the table, it says office use only. That's not included when you print off a policy. So I think that the date should be on there because it does become confusing. With the election signs, a question is, our policy states that they're not supposed to be up before a certain date and they're not about to be illuminating. We've got state election signs all over the place at the moment and at bus stops, etc. Some signs stay, political parties stay all year. Doesn't this conflict with that? And what are we doing?
Thank you.
About
Mr. Blanchard?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There is nothing to stop a candidate buying signage outside of the electoral period, and they may display that signage. We take a pragmatic approach to how we enforce this policy, and we certainly won't be enforcing against any legally placed signs. That's 30 seconds.
Keep going. Councillor Ree, you've got 30 seconds. Don't waste it.
Well, I think that's a confusing statement. You can go and buy a sign and it's okay, but if you don't buy a sign, it's not okay. And if you put it on our policy says you're not allowed to display electoral signs, so how can you buy a sign for 12 months of the year if it's not within our policy? It doesn't make any sense.
I would suggest.
Oh, then it just doesn't make
I
any
would
sense.
suggest that the current state government and the candidates for the upcoming state election advertise all year. They're always on every sporting club and on everything. Yes. Council, have you got anything else to finish off? No. Good. Councillor Olo, did you have a question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We're going back to the Christmas cards. I'm just wondering if we could have some consideration on a few of the Christmas cards, because like...
So we can take Christmas cards offline. This is
offline?
we're
Okay,
talking about
right, that's fine.
council policy.
That's fine. What? Do it now? No, that's fine.
I'm sure I've got some old ones in the cupboard.
Yeah, no, it's just that
Councillor,
not everyone has emails. That's all I'm trying to say. Thank you.
would you like to close debate, Councillor Perkoff?
I would, Mr Mayor, nothing further to add.
Thank you. We'll put that to the vote. Thank you, councillors. That motion is carried with Councillor Ree voting against, all other councillors voting for it. Councillor Perkoff, would you like to move the balance of reports? I think we've got a couple.
I so move the balance of reports for this Community Resources Committee meeting from 22nd of October.
Thank you. And seconded Councillor Olo. Thank you. And I will put that to the vote. I think we're missing someone. We've got Councillor Papard, if you can put yours through. That is unanimous. Members of the gallery and those viewers at home, please note that the remainder of the Community and Resource Committee recommendations have been adopted by exception resolution. Item 13, we'll go to 13.1 first, and we'll start with the trackless tram business case. Do I have a move of a motion? Councillor Kristovich.
I'd like to move the officer's recommendation and make a comment later if possible.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Papard. Is there anyone opposed? Councillor Ree. Thank you. Councillor Kristovich.
Okay, there you go. Look, obviously I want to commend the city on this 657-page report. As we know, Councillor Olo...
Councillors.
Sorry. As we know, the trackless tram study was done with $2 million of federal government funding for us to look at transport solutions. And as we heard this evening, we all know that we have parking and congestion problems. And of course, the trackless tram study was between Glendalough and Scarborough Beach. And that's the corridor that it's being looked at. And we know that there are no easy solutions going forward. We know parking is an issue. We know that we're investing in wayfinding technology. We're obviously trying to look at maximising the opportunity down there. But as we know, with development, and we've seen it so often now where the state government through the JDAPs and other processes approves these multi-storey buildings, 2- and 3-bedroom apartments, and they only have 1 car bay in them. And so obviously that means people need to park somewhere else because they usually have more than 1 car. And then people come to the council and say, well, what are you going to do about it? And sometimes there are no easy solutions because there is nowhere to park. And, we hear all the time that we're talking about moving to use public transport, not to use cars. But, if you go anywhere in Western Australia, generally you see everyone driving a car and there's usually only one person in that car. So we obviously love our cars. We do get out and about. We know, obviously, people have come to council previously talking about the fact that they don't have enough car parking space for their children because obviously the blocks are smaller. They build their house on the entire block. They don't have any verges. They don't have any front yards. And then they come to us for a solution. Well, unfortunately, sometimes there are no easy answers. So we do need to look at public transport. and we do need to look at innovative and different ways of doing it. And mid-tier transport is definitely one of those ways, and it's very, very important. And we know the state government hasn't been very receptive to look at necessarily building a better network for integration. Yes, they're focusing on MetroNet, which is heavy rail, but that doesn't actually help 90% of the population. It only helps if you're trying to get to one particular destination point from another destination point fundamentally. And so we do need to have better interconnected buses and obviously a light rail system. Now, it's also important to note that, you know, this trial won an award, Productivity and Innovation Award for us in Canberra when we went there, and the CEO was proudly up there shaking the hand of the Prime Minister as he was taking that massive trophy home back to Stirling. You know, so it's something that we should be proud of, the work that we've done. And we know that this business case is very comprehensive. And, you know, it's a bit like, you know, at a local government level, people come in here, they talk to councillors, they raise questions, we hear what they have to say, and then we are the conduit to the state government because, you know, unfortunately, not all state or federal members of parliament are closely connected to the community. They're not necessarily listening to everything they have to say. Their doors sometimes aren't even open, supposedly. So, you know, there's all these barriers for the message to get through. And I think it's important that we as the local government have been able to do that hard work, to put these sort of things together, put the reports on the table, and then make it a little bit easier for the state government to take that next step, and also give something for the community to take themselves, to go and talk to their state and federal members and say, hey, City of Stirling's done this great report, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to make our lives better? And I think that's the important point that we need to do sometimes, is point them in that right direction as well. So congratulations to everybody involved. Congratulations to you, Mr Mayor. And you know, I think it's a great initiative, and I think the City of Stirling needs to continue to do that and advocate for the community, for good initiatives that, you know, would otherwise be left behind. So I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Councillor Papard, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just very briefly, and I had mentioned at previous workshops and briefings, I've just come back from Europe seeing how a lot of mid-tier cities of about 500,000 people have a very integrated mid-tier transport system where you just hop on and hop off, very cleverly done, and they are rail, and obviously comes with quite some expense and cost, whereas, you know, we have an option and a solution here that is a small proportion of that cost as we understand it. And you know, what better place than really to you know, propose that down one of our major thoroughfares through the City of Stirling, that is Scarborough Beach Road, where it's already been planned to reserve some extra lanes there for the future for many decades, as you, Mayor, do know. And so, you know, the solution going forward could be, you know, if not some sort of dedicated rapid bus, then certainly something that you can just easily hop on and hop off, move large quantities of people. I saw these trams around Europe full to the brim. People were using them all the time and getting them vast distances in a short period of time. And so that's why I'm very glad this report has been completed and done, and I do so support it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Ree, you're opposed.
Interesting, this report. It's much like the Stirling City report from starting in 1997 and 2007. So it's good to see it was updated. On page 30, where we actually reference in here the timeline and etc. of the tram case, it wasn't a tram to start with, it was light rail. So it's a good mix on words, going from light rail to tram. It is still a bus with wheels. That's no different. Everybody's said that before. It is larger. It's going to cost a lot more money to get through. Interesting comments around the table that with regard to the bus system we have now. The bus system we have now works very well down Scarborough Beach Road, very rarely full. We don't have the amount of people we have in Europe, and the train system, their rail system was there beforehand. But we do have a good system, and if it's not broken, don't fix it. And at the time, many years ago, when this Stirling City Centre project was started, which unfortunately, through the politics, it wasn't continued, that the light rail was only for the future, when we had a lot of people. We still don't have that amount of people. It's not going to make much difference now. The buses are going very well at the moment. They are very hardly really full. Where are you going to put people? It's not going to stop people parking. People don't want to go on public transport. It's not going to stop people parking and the issues we've got down at Scarborough and other places, just like the buses. We have more bus systems. We have more buses coming every 10, 15 minutes down Scarborough Beach Road. That hasn't stopped any of the parking issues. And I think one of the things by Lisa Harvey actually got the bus, local member, actually got the increase in the buses. Rita Safiotti has actually pushed it even more. So the bus system's working very well. I don't see this as a priority for our council. We're already doing so many things that are going outside our normal remit at the moment. And I look at some of our buildings, we're not maintaining our buildings. We've still got asbestos in them. We've still got buildings that are 60 years old. What are we doing? Waiting for them to fall down? We should be upgrading what we've got and giving back to the local community. Because who's going to use this? This is more for tourists. And we know that, I think it's, and Mr. Murphy, I apologise if I've misquoted you, but I think it was 47% of all the people that are in Scarborough are itinerants because they come and go. They're not there permanently in the premises. So it's different. And as no one around the table lives in Scarborough here, I'm probably one of the closest, but that's all. Oh, no, we do. Sorry, you do. My apologies. Oh, and people in the gallery, good. Although they did say Inaloo, but that was close. It is. I think it's important we take things into perspective and spend the money wisely. This isn't our money. This is ratepayers' money. And while this might go for the future, the state government said they wouldn't support it. I don't believe this is the time for doing it now when we've got so many buildings that need to be done. And also, I'm not also looking at buildings when we've got a little park like Inditch Reserve, which has got wood chips and redbacks, and all they asked for was, I don't think it's funny. Do you want to put your children in a park that just has
Councillor
wood
Reid,
chips?
through the chair.
Well, I think
Seriously,
that
we're
was
talking
inappropriate.
about trackless tram. If you want to talk about redbacks and mulch, then
I'm
that's why you get a
sorry.
laugh. Keep
I'm
going.
talking about money, not my money, but ratepayers' money. I don't know how you feel about spending other people's money, but I am very concerned. So I do believe this is an issue.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks. What's
Can
your
you
point of order,
clarify
Councillor?
for us, please, and for Councillor Ree, if we are spending the money to build these trains, build all this up, or is it the federal government? Who's spending the money?
Thank you. Look, your point of order is basically a point of clarification. Let's be very clear. This is a $2 million business case funded by the federal government because it's seen as a project of national significance. There is no intent, if you read the report, for this council to spend money. The council has never said it's going to implement any sort of public transport system. This is an advocacy piece for better transport for our community. Councillor Ree, continue. You're running out of time.
If you don't mind. If we've already spent money, which this council has already said to various people have asked questions, so we're already spending money. It is still not our remit. And I'll go back to Inditch Reserve. Why they were told by this staff that they couldn't have lawn in their park because it would cost too much money for water. I had several of them ring me tonight, but they've got screaming kids and that, and I said, bring them along, but they didn't. Because all they want to do was have a park with some water on it for their kids. But we told them, I didn't tell them, the staff told them that they couldn't have it because it was going to cost too much money for the water. And now they're sitting there looking
I'm going
at
to clarify. Just take a seat for a sec, because previous council agenda items have made it very clear from Mr. Murphy's team that it has nothing to do with this council spending money. The reduction in water is purely a state government initiative, and the groundwater allocation for councils has reduced. So some of those smaller parks can't have it. It has nothing to do with money, and it's not led by this council. Councillor Ree, continue.
Well, I think if they could, they also said that they didn't have any water there, and yet they do have a water tap. I just don't feel that this is right. I think this is the amount of time that officers have spent on that is still a cost for this council. When we're arguing about fixing water fountains and the basic things for our community, that's where we are. We're supposed to be putting our community first. I don't feel this is first, and if it came out of federal government, it's something Curtin University, which they were partners with, they're the research game, not us. It's not our role. Our role is looking after the community and using our money to the best of our advantage and their advantage, because it's not our money.
Thanks, Councillor Ree. Deputy Mayor Migdal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I haven't prepared anything, but I feel that it's really critical mass that I clarify some of the misgivings that have perhaps been directed this evening through the chair on this item. To be very clear, this item is about noting the City of Stirling's trackless tram business case. There is no finance attached to this item. The City of Stirling asked for and received funds from federal government to explore opportunities for mid-tier transport. Mid-tier transport.
What is your point of order,
The
councillor?
point of order is, if I may, is the fact
Through
that
me, thanks.
this says here, denotes the City of Stirling trackless team business case. In that, we are still paying money out for various things.
Take a seat,
so
councillor
it's
Reid.
not neutral.
You haven't
as
got.
alluded.
There's no point of order there, councillor Migdale. Please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, to be clear, we received funds as a city from the federal government to explore options for mid-tier transport, noting, as so many residents and councillors have noted over the years, we have serious parking issues, especially at Scarborough Beach. We have a corridor from Glendalough Station to Scarborough. Glendalough Station to Scarborough, which in future could see huge amounts of density. Not sure if everybody's noticed, but we have a housing crisis in WA. So instead of sprawling past Geraldton, making that part of the metro area, and past Bunbury, there are ways that we can be proactive in developing density and urbanising our corridors where density belongs, right? And that is why we are doing what we are doing. And that is why City of Stirling are taking the bull by the horns to explore ways that we can improve and deliver hand in hand with our government density where density belongs. Nothing more, nothing less. This highly awarded business case, and I take my hat off to the Mayor, the CEO and all officers and councillors who have been involved and our partners at Curtin and beyond, has been extremely successful. It has proven itself to be of value, and I do hope that the Mayor and the CEO take the bull by the horns and continue to converse with our federal and state governments, as, to be clear, they would be the ones to put in the money for such transport options. This is not something our residents will be paying for, to be very clear. I think I've been very clear. Have I been clear enough? Through you, Mr. Mayor. Very clearly, our rate dollars will not be going to this trackless tram. But I urge the Mayor and the CEO to continue pushing to resolve this mid-tier transport issue. It is an issue. And by doing so, we will resolve many parking issues in pockets of the city by being able to move people easily and speedily. Please keep going. I take my hat off to you. Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Perkoff, got you next, and I've got Councillor Dudek.
Oh, didn't think I had my hand up, but that's okay. Mr. Mayor,
You might have been scratching.
as much as us Australians love our roads, love our cars, one person per car, we love travelling and so on. What's happening with the infill that we're going to experience and the rise in the population within these areas and corridors, it's unavoidable. By 2050, I think the figures are somewhere in this report. What's going to happen? A lot of us have travelled the world. A lot of times we've seen what public mass transport looks like. It's become a requirement. There's nothing wrong with City of Stirling being visionary, being progressive. This is an incredible report. It's pretty scary going through 640 odd pages, but crikey, it's something to behold, really. There is no other option going down the track, and others will follow. No, we're going to do this and others will follow this. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Perkoff. Councillor Dudek, I have you next.
Yeah, thank you. I won't take long. Just a bit of clarification on point number 2, where it says to advocate for the implementation of this important project. I know most of what we've done so far has been within the funds provided by the business case. I'm just wondering what this advocacy might look like, as advocacy can be quite expensive depending on the level of it. So I'm just wondering if we have any sort of sense of how wide-ranging this advocacy will be, how many people we might dedicate to it.
No, so it's nothing to do with that. The advocacy has no financial commitment outside of the normal advocacy this city would do. So myself and the CEO have been charged by this council to do advocacy on all of our key priorities. When we visit Canberra or when we're in front of key politicians or key department officials who might have some ability in the future to influence this. So even the advocacy relates to either directors or even managers who are before department heads, work with Department of Transport. One of the things that came up in the workshop last night even was key either widening or the rapid transit lanes down Scarborough Beach Road. So it's to work towards those sort of things.
Further, thanks.
Councillor Giudice.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I think my fellow councillors have covered a lot of these items in any case, but I think, yeah, I'd like to commend the officers for the preparation of this report with the, I suppose, the experts that have prepared it as well. But I think we just got to think about this has been talked about for a very long time, and I think it's fairly fantastic that we've, I suppose, had the opportunity to guide it. I think it's sort of been lost maybe in the conversation tonight, but Stirling City Centre is a strategic city centre. It's not a Mickey Mouse city centre. Herdsman and Osborne Park, second largest employer outside of the CBD. These are significant employers, should have significant elements added into them to actually make them actually, fire in terms of being those strategic centres, being that significant employer. We all know we run down a Scarborough Beach Road. It is a car dependent. It's got a street. It's got a number of automakers. It's got a lot of opportunity, I think. And us doing this kind of report and then facilitating and hopefully advocating going forward, we will get something. We'll get something better than what's been proposed by our state government presently. There's no suggestion this is going to happen overnight. We've seen the Metronote program really being something that sort of harks back into the 2015s or thereabouts. It's only really seeing the light of day right now. So I think that we've got to start somewhere. I think the trackless tram or a tram, whatever it might be, I think the evidence is in this report that is actually the superior type of transport to be used. It's far superior in terms of the number of people it can carry. It may not be the bus rapid transport or the buses right now might not be carrying many people right now, but we do know that this corridor will and can house a number of people. It's got the potential from an employee perspective. It's got the strategic city centre. It's got the connection with Glendalough. It's got a connection with Stirling as well. We'd have to be, I suppose, remiss to not be doing this work. And I think it's fantastic we've done it. So, as I said, many of my other fellow councillors have said, commendations to the officers that have been promoting this. I think the work that was done in enabling the opportunity for people to actually touch and feel it as well, it's been fantastic as well. And I think for me personally, seeing it in operation, I suppose I still don't like the name of trackless tram, and I think the contention around it being a bus, but it is superior to a bus. It's fantastic. In terms of the accessibility for less able-bodied people, other forms of transport like your micro-mobilities, your bikes, etc., can go on that with ease of access. 300 people can go on that thing. I think it's, as I say, it's a world-class, I suppose, element of, or should say, piece of transport. Whether it's trackless or tram, I'm not really fussed, but I think it's something that we, through this report, should be advocating. We're armed now with something that we can actually take through to state and federal ministers, and hopefully over 5, 10, whenever the years may come, it will be something that we will need to introduce into Scarborough Beach Road. So yeah, commendations to everyone who's put a lot of effort into making this report come to fruition.
Thank you. Councillors, I haven't got anyone else, so I'll go to Councillor Kristovich to close.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the informed debate. can I just say that we all know that the Mayor and the CEO of the City of Stirling, as well as other councils, frequently, well, not frequently, but from time to time fly to Canberra to meet the Prime Minister and ministers to lobby for money for the ratepayers of the City of Stirling. Likewise, they meet with the Premier and local ministers here at the state level. So it's very, very important to lobby. And one of the things when you go and lobby is you need a very good business case. You need the facts, the data, the information to put in front of these people so they've got some confidence to be able to fund those projects. And the fact that we were able to get $2 million to do this trial is a testament to the lobbying and the, I suppose, the stature with which the Prime Minister holds the City of Stirling to be able to give us that money to say, you know what, we know you're not going to build it and we know it's not your responsibility, but you're working on behalf of your constituents, on behalf of the community to be able to show the state government what they can do and how they can do it. And it's also important to note this report is not just about Scarborough Beach Road and about Glendalough to Scarborough. It gives a template to the entire state, to everybody, to be able to say, well, this is what a trackless tram is about, this is how it works, and you can superimpose this in every part of Western Australia where it fits in that glove, so that people can then be able to advocate and use that as a benchmark and a starting point for their own transport needs. So I think it's a great conversation. I think it's great that we have the confidence of the Prime Minister and hopefully you know, future federal governments and state governments will continue to give us funds to look at these important things that maybe aren't being looked at by the state government but are very important, because we get those questions here every day about congestion on our roads, about parking, about, you know, the issues that matter. And these are the things that fix those. We can't do it ourselves. We need state and federal government to come on board, and we need to be driving that. And I think it's very, very important. And I really, again, congratulate everyone for the great work they've done.
Thank you. And with that, that closes debate. So we'll put that on and move Councillor Christovich and seconded Councillor Papard. And Councillor Dudek, I think that's it. Good. Thank you, councillors. That motion is carried with all councillors voting for and Councillor Ree voting against. Councillors, I do want to just finalise by, I didn't want to debate the item because I'm obviously chairing the meeting. I think, firstly, I'd like to commend the business case and I'd like to acknowledge some of the team that were involved. This is an extremely significant piece of work by this city. And whilst I appreciate the positive comments for myself and the CEO, it's really at other levels that the work behind this has been done. To Michelle Warzencroft, who's led the strategic performance team and the strategy and the advocacy behind this piece. To Andrew Murphy and your team, particularly here tonight, obviously Frank Strever, the engineers who are behind a lot of the work, and Paul Kellick, who was heavily involved with his team in the early parts of this business case and providing that information. A huge thank you to all of your teams, to the planners, obviously, to Amanda and your teams. You know, the fact that sometimes this is lost in terms of being a transport project, it misses the point. This is a land use project when you look at what it is. Light rail or mid-tier transit is a land use solution. And if you look at the history, Councillor Ree is right. 20 years ago, they were talking about light rail. In fact, I remember, I'm pretty sure the community group you're a part of was the main advocate for better transport solutions down Scarborough Beach Road back then. In 2013, the then state government endorsed the Scarborough Beach Road Activity Corridor. The Scarborough Beach Road Activity Corridor, before my time on council, was highlighted as a significant corridor to provide the density that the Deputy Mayor talks about, because Stirling City Centre is a strategic local city centre with Herdsman Glendalough and the future development that will occur here. And it's important that better transport solutions are implemented. If you then look at why this business case came about, it came about because when we lobbied for better transport solutions, the federal government, both sides, said, but we don't know what this technology looks like. We know about light rail, but it's expensive. What if there's other technology, but we don't know what it looks like? It was this council that in an 8-week period, with your support, went to China and bought the first trackless tram back to Australia here at the City of Stirling in 8 weeks. And do you know what some of them said? Some people said, but how are we going to charge this thing? How are those stations going to work down Scarborough Beach Road? Within 8 weeks, our team discussed with 2 local organisations who developed an off-grid charging system in our car park to charge a piece of Chinese infrastructure. That's how incredible our community is and our local businesses if they want to develop new technologies. It's incredible if you look at some of those achievements in an 8-week period. A vehicle that had never been in the Southern Hemisphere has now been submitted for national certification so it can go on Australian roads. The state government departments have now given conditional support for a future trial to go on road to see what this vehicle will do in a local environment. The business case has been developed and it is shown that something like a trackless tram could be delivered. While $800 million sounds like a lot of money to us, it's monopoly money. Put that in comparison to a current light rail project of the same magnitude, which is between $4 and $6 billion. It is an incredible Australian significance level project. It is also important to note this business case has been done, as the federal government has asked, under the framework of Infrastructure Australia, which is something that is needed for any future funding requirement. So it's an extremely significant achievement. It's been recognised at an Australian level by the Prime Minister and the Federal Minister for Infrastructure and the Local Government Association. And it's been supported by this council and has been wonderfully supported by the amazing team who've done an incredible job behind it. So I congratulate all of you. Thank you. Change of pace, 13.2, Naval Association of Australia. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. And Councillor Christovich, you're seconding. Is there anyone opposed? Councillor... Oh. Councillor Dudek, have you got a question?
Yeah. Just a question.
Sure.
Just as part of the policy, a donation may be made in addition to the annual donation towards holding significant milestone celebrations. Just wondering, there's been 3 separate milestones for this organisation in the past year. Is this a regular thing that's happened before, or is it just recently that an organisation has just started applying for them frequently?
No, I would suggest that I don't think there's anything different. So this would happen every year with all of the different RSL clubs or the Naval Association. It just depends. It comes up if they're going to run an event. They change each year whether they just run ANZAC events or whether they then do things like the extra ones, like this particular association runs them over here at the Civic Gardens and does things like the Vietnam commemoration or the Coral Sea. And they're also the Remembrance Day ones. And some apply for funding because they might be a smaller group. Others might have other additional funding sources.
I might just ask, within the intent of the policy about significant milestone celebrations, would this class as it just an annual event, or does milestone, is that meant to mean, you know, once every 10 years, once every 20 years, I would usually think?
Sure, and I might get someone else to answer this, but I would suggest it's none of these organisations have committed to doing them yearly, so that's why it's just a term that's used. Mr Blanchard?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, it's a pretty broad definition, milestone event. We allow some flexibility in when applications are received and we present them to council for approval under the policy.
I think probably the other thing to note, some of these, it's effectively just to cover things like the costs of traffic management that are put on for these sort of organisations, and some do have traffic management, other because of the locations don't have that, so that's why they can be a bit different. Thanks. There's no one opposed to this, so I'll put this one to the vote. Just got a couple of votes to go. I think we've got Councillor Olo and that's it. One came up. We've got one more to go. Councillor Migdale. That's all right. Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 14.1, proposed notice of motion from Councillor Perkoff.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I move that as written on page 291? Yeah, just the importance of this bridge. And can I just add very quickly, Mayor, if you wouldn't mind, I did get a quick message from the lead petitioner about this saying, and this goes in line with what we're trying to achieve here, is that...
I'll tell you what, so you move the motion. Let's get Councillor Hatton to second the motion. Yep. Happy to second it. There's no one opposed, but I'll just allow you to make a comment. Let's do it.
Just a comment. So the local member Stuart Aubrey's MLA office has written to the lead petitioner saying that the state government works with stakeholders to assess current options for this. And this goes along the lines of something that you may be writing to in the very near future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And there's no one opposed, so I'll put that to the vote. Thank you. That is unanimous, councillors. Item 14.2, Councillor Ferrandi is unwell tonight, so has asked for his motion to be withdrawn until the next council meeting when he is here to debate it. Probably a wise move, Councillor Ferrandi. Item 15, notice of motion for consideration at the next meeting. Councillors, do you have any proposed notice of motions? Deputy?
I do indeed, Mr. Mayor. As is on the board, I'd like to raise this notice of motion that a report be presented to a Community and Resources Committee meeting before the end of March 2025 that investigates the options to establish safer exchange sites within the City of Stirling in public areas covered by city CCTV cameras to allow community members to safely exchange and trade goods bought online.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. My son will love that motion, Deputy Mayor. Councillors, are there any other notice of motions? If not, I will go on to 16, which is questions by members, of which due notice has been given. I have nil. I have 17 new business of an urgent nature, and I also have nil. 18 matters... We'll open up. Welcome back to those viewers at home. Please note that item 18.1, the event sponsorships, was moved and seconded and voted for unanimously. Well done to those events who've received sponsorship tonight. I'll now go to item 19, which is closure of the meeting, declare the meeting closed at 7:49 p.m. and bid you all good night. Good night to those viewers who hung around and turned back on.
Good night, everyone at home.
And good